We are going to be talking about, I notice my title, Go to the Ant, a Study in Sluggardry. And if you try to look that word up, you will not find it. My spell checker does not like it. But I made it up. I'm very proud of it. Okay, so that's what we're looking at today. So we've talking about, in the last few weeks, we've been talking about wisdom and wealth. And we touched on laziness as one of the ways in which wealth can be squandered or lost. And today I want to take a closer look at the sluggard by looking at the major sluggard passages. I guess originally I was taking from notes from before, I just looked at the one. But I decided we're going to look at all, there's three major sluggard passages in Proverbs. And then there's one passage that is a sort of an antidote, I guess, and then that's at the end. And then there are numerous other places in the Proverbs where you have almost a one-liner about sluggards. And so I don't think in the past when he taught this, I went through all of those, but I don't think I'm going to do that this time. We'll just move on from this to a different topic next time. And I have returned to giving you blanks on the sheet. So I don't know whether this is a wise move or not. Because it does, in some ways, you're looking for my authorized answer, or you're trying to read my mind. I don't know. I don't know if it stimulates discussion. We'll just see. We'll just see how it goes. And you tell me. I don't know which is best. And I would like to have some feedback. Nobody ever tells me. So I'm feeling very, very put upon. Okay, so the ant and the sluggard is the first one. This is the most famous one. Let's read the passage. Go to the ant, O sluggard, observe her ways and be wise, which having no chief, officer, or ruler, prepares her food in the summer, gathers her provision in the harvest. How long will you lie down, O sluggard? When will you rise from your sleep? A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest. Your poverty will come in like a vagabond, and your need like an armed man. All right, so that's the sluggard, the word to the sluggard. All right, so number one, or first, what should the sluggard learn from the ant? Observe her ways and be wise. All right, see, that one was easy. I'm just read it and you can get it. Observe her ways and be wise. All right, so the next thing is, what wisdom or qualities does Solomon record in each description? So I'm going to give you the description. Now let's talk about what quality of wisdom that is. So no chief, officer, or ruler. What would that refer to if we're using the ant as a model for wisdom?
Self-motivated.
Self-motivated, Cullen says. All right, somebody else have anything else?
Initiative.
Initiative, okay. Anybody else? Pardon me?
Independence.
Independence, okay, good.
Nobody has to remind them.
Nobody has to remind them. It's like when my dad would come home and he said, didn't I tell you to take the garbage out? Oh, I forgot. No such thing as forgetting, he would say. All right, so here's what I put, the authorized version. He's a self-starter, okay? The ant is a self-starter. He just does what he does because that's what he does, okay? Now, all right, so then the next one is prepares her food in the summer. So what words would you use for that? Pardon me?
Plans ahead.
Plans ahead. Organized.
Proactive.
Pardon me?
Proactive.
Proactive. Oh, that's a very good word. That's a big word for these days, isn't it? All right. Anybody else have one? Okay, now these are not, there's no, there's a lot of ways to describe this. I put forward looking. Somebody else had?
I was going to say forward thinking.
Yeah, okay, so somebody else had something similar. Yeah, that's the thing is, the person who it's not sitting around wondering where things are going to happen. You try to find a way to make things work. That's what the ant is doing. They're scouring all over, a lot of times in our kitchen. To our great chagrin, we fight the ants in our house. We do their best. They show up. All right, but anyway, the wisdom. Okay, next one. Gathers in the harvest. Okay, so what would that speak about? Wisdom for the sluggard. How should the sluggard think about this?
Hard worker.
Okay, hard worker. Anybody else?
Prudent.
Prudent, all right. Anything else?
It doesn't waste.
Doesn't waste, or he doesn't waste energy either, right? You know, right.
One of my favorite words, organized.
Organize, yeah. Yeah, I don't know that word myself. But all right, so I put in here, hard work at the right time, punctual. All right, so you think about the harvest. Now, obviously for a human harvest, if we're thinking of agrarian culture, that's a big time. They're trying to beat the weather, especially in prairie farmers. You know, you got a short window. Your harvest is ready. Everybody else's harvest is ready at the same time. It's really hard to help your neighbors. And you got to rush, get those combines in the field. Or get the haying done when the haying season comes. It's just go. You spend hours and hours, and hopefully your equipment doesn't break down, and you have to go and get a part or something like that. It's a frenetic. But you have to just go at it, or else you're going to be in trouble, right? And the ant is often in wisdom literature. Animals are used as a parable to teach the lesson. So, various fables, Aesop's fables. That's a lot of that is using animals to teach the lesson, and that's wisdom. But here's this one in Proverbs. Now, there's a little bit more. In this, comparing the characteristics of the sluggard. All right, so there are a couple of words here now in verse 9. How long will you lie down? So what is that referring to? Procrastination. That is exactly what I had in my notes. Okay, how long? Procrastination. How long? A little sleep. Okay, so a little sleep. What's the sluggard doing when he says, oh, just a little sleep?
Hitting the snooze button.
Pardon me?
He's hitting the snooze button.
He's hitting the snooze button. Well, that's true.
But I need a nap.
I need a nap, yes. Well, the older we get,
I need it.
yeah, the older we get. Now, that's true. We do need these power naps, and some of us need like extra. We need a couple of them just to get revved up. Okay, but when the sluggard says, oh, just a little sleep, what's he doing?
He's lying to himself.
He's lying to himself. That's the way I want you to think about this. There's another word I have in here. It's not the one I had, but she's on the right track. Anybody else want to try that?
Procrastination?
No, that was in the how long, right? How long?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so here, just saying, oh, just a little sleep. Is he really looking for just a little sleep? He's just, a lot of sleep, right? So this is rationalization. He's I need just a little sleep, and I'll get to it later, right? Rationalizing.
Well, he'll say, I get to it soon. Even.
Pardon me?
He would even think he's going to get to it soon.
Yeah, I'll get to it soon. Yeah, I'll get to it soon. Yeah. That's what I do when my wife asks me to do something. In a minute. Okay. All right. Sleep and slumber. So think about the mental state here.
Checked out.
Pardon me?
Checked out.
Checked out. Okay, anybody else? Don't want this to be a conversation between me and Debbie. Okay. Anybody else have something on that one? Here's this guy. He's sleeping. Little sleep, a little slumber. So what's happening in his brain, Marlena?
He's just kind of relaxed.
Yeah, he's relaxed. He's not even thinking about anything. He's out of it. Okay? No thinking is what I put. But all the things we've said are fine. Okay. Any other things, as you look at this description, any other things that you see in here, maybe wisdom that you could observe about the sluggard? I thought I would just leave a couple blanks for you to add things that you think this is teaching us.
I think that no thinking is actually dreaming.
Okay, actually dreaming. Yeah, sometimes we have big dreams. The sluggard has big dreams, but they're all castles in the air. They're not real, right?
Yeah, no action.
Yeah, no action.
I can do lots of work while I'm resting.
Yes.
I'm thinking about the job that I plan to do.
Yes.
You gotta get up.
You have to actually move and do it. That's right.
It's
Okay.
easier to think about.
It is, and you should see the projects I've built in my mind. Everything's square.
And it takes less time.
It takes less time. That's right. Yeah, then you start doing it. Oh my goodness! It's like, oh no, I forgot about that. Okay, Rob.
Is there an application to this about like accountability to God? Don't sort of like put it off.
Yeah.
Is that
Okay.
part
Sure.
of it?
Yeah. Accountability to God. All right. I mean, God has given us this time. So let's use it. That means nose to grindstone at all times, right? Well, no, that's not what it means, but it does mean that there is such a thing as somebody who is a sluggard. All right, so let's talk about consequences. All right, consequences. Oops. So this is a simile. Notice, your poverty will come in like a vagabond. All right, a simile. So, and the word vagabond, it's kind of an unfamiliar word, like a traveler. Okay, so what is that saying to us? What is there about this traveler, poverty coming in as a traveler or like a traveler? What's
King James said it that way.
Marlena?
Expected?
Unexpected.
Says, King James says traveler, and I want as an armed man.
Yeah, that's the first phrase is the one we
First
want.
phrase is what?
Oh, shall thy poverty come as one that traveleth?
Yeah, one a traveler. Okay, so a traveler. Okay, so but a vagabond. What do we think about the word vagabond?
Good for nothing.
Yeah, but what's good for nothing? But what does that mean though?
Like a robber.
A more simple word that we could use. They could have used and made it a little more clear. Some of these translators. Hobo. There you go. Like a hobo. Shiftless, moving around from place to place. Suddenly shows up and he's eyeing your stuff. All right? That's the hobo, the vagabond. All right? So unexpected, unannounced. It's not like you're living down the road, living at the end of the road, and this guy shows up. Got any work for me? No. All right. So then the next one. Need like an armed man. So what does that imply? All right, your need is like an armed man. So what is this need? I guess the armed man part is, like the vagabond could be just somebody who drifts in, and there is an evil intent. Seems to be an evil intent. It's like he'll take what you have, even though you're the sluggard. If you're just going to be a sluggard, you're going to end up losing. But he's saying it's coming in like a vagabond. It's unexpected. When your loss comes, it's unexpected. All right, so your need is like an armed man. So the need itself is like a robber. So what is the need that we're talking about here? Not quite, the answer I put is not probably as clear as what I want to say, but Cal.
I'm not sure if this is right, but I'm thinking like your need becomes so great that you are willing to commit crimes in order to.
Okay, so from the standpoint of the person who might take away wealth, that's true. But I'm thinking about the person he's got a little bit of things, but he's a sluggard, he's lazy, he's not doing things, and he's going to lose what he has. What is it that is stealing it from him? What is the robber?
Just unpreparedness for.
Unpreparedness. Okay. What else?
Takes you hostage.
Pardon me?
Takes you hostage.
Not so much takes you hostage. He's taking your stuff. Okay. This is a little bit harder to. I have a leap of logic here that maybe you're not seeing. Okay. So I'll give you my answer. Okay. Okay. So he takes wealth by force. Oops. Oh, I was looking at the wrong. I was looking at the wrong question. Takes wealth by force, power overwhelms. I totally confused you. I confused myself. Okay, so his sluggardry, it's like the actual laziness is the robber. And the laziness comes in and steals your stuff. Unexpectedly and by force. It's not like, what is the thing that you would attribute your the losses to? It's not somebody else's fault. It's because you've been lazy, and that laziness has stolen those things from you. It's stolen your time. It's stolen your stuff. All right,
Well,
Gordon.
he's taken your need that you wouldn't have needed if you would have
Yeah,
been diligent.
if you'd been diligent, you wouldn't have needed all those things. That's right. Yes, Debbie?
I was thinking maybe instead of takes, it's loss of wealth by
Yeah.
force. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just taken away from you and you lose what you need.
Yes, you lose what you need. That's right. All right, so I sort of messed up that last question. So let's quickly, I have a couple of quotes here. from Bruce Waltke's commentary. I didn't put them on the screen or on the notes, so I'll just let you listen. So here, personified poverty has no home. This is about the vagabond. No security and no support, and so wanders aimlessly trying to steal them wherever it can be found. That's the first comment. And then the second one, on the armed man. The easiest victim for a vagabond or bandit is the sleeping sluggard who lacks both the vigilance and the diligence to retain his wealth. All right, so I thought that was a good observation. All right, so let's move on to the next one because I've sort of messed up this one here and we want to just avoid such things. Okay, the king and the sluggard. Now I say the king because this is Solomon describing this, and so we're assuming this is the king. All right. So I passed by the field of the sluggard and by the vineyard of the man lacking sense. And behold, it was completely overgrown with thistles. Its surface was covered with nettles. Its stone wall was broken down. When I saw, I reflected upon it. I looked and received instruction. A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest. Then your poverty will come as a robber and your want like an armed man. So you see the similarity on those last two verses. Okay. But anyway, so first one, location. Where is the king as he observes the sluggard?
Passing by.
He's passing by.
On the road.
He's on the road, right? He's looking over the fence. Okay, so looking in the sluggard's yard. So that's the answer. So here's the thing. The sluggard is lazy. He's thinking about himself. But what he's doing is obvious to people outside looking in at him. He's not aware perhaps of how he looks from the outside. But he is, other people can observe this problem in his character. Okay, so the next thing, what did the king see? Verse 31.
He saw a mess.
He saw a mess. That's right. That's right. All right. Apparently there's some lady. Oh, what did I have? Okay, so the sluggard's field, overgrown, broken wall. Okay, so there's some lady apparently in Saanich that's had, I was in the news in the paper, who has been under an order to clean up her yard. And she was crying to council and they gave her an extra 60 days. Okay, so that's too bad. She's probably got some, she's probably not just lazy, she's probably got some other issues going on. I remember some years ago, probably 25 years ago, there was some guy up near Keating Crossroads, and you used to drive by right there on Keating Crossroads and the, what is it, West Saanich, or well, anyway, it was right there, and this guy got mad at the city, and so he collected all kinds of junk. His yard was full of junk, old toilets, old plumbing stuff, the grass, he just let the grass grow. He had a sign painted on the fence about how bad the city was to him, and it was as ugly could be. Does anybody remember that besides me? Debbie doesn't remember it?
I don't.
It was notorious. You'd drive by there. You're going to Butcher Gardens. There's this beautiful site right there.
Was that Harry Hay?
I don't know who it was. You sort of remember that? And anyway, so the city finally came in and they cleaned it all up and gave him a bill. It was like, but you see, there's that. Oh, when I think of this verse, I think of that guy's yard. Now he was doing it deliberately. He was mad at the city, and probably wasn't a sluggard, but he was mad at the city. A little bit different story, but that's what I think about when I think about this verse. Okay, next. What did the king not see in verse 31? Now, this one's a little tricky. This is a trick question. He sees, let's read the verse. Behold, it was completely overgrown with thistles, its surface was covered with nettles, and its stone wall was broken down. What did the king not see?
The sluggard himself.
The sluggard himself. Very good. Gold star for Emily. All right.
Even the right words.
Pardon me?
Even the right words.
Even the right words. I mean, that's a double gold star. That's really so good. Okay, so what is the point of this? You don't even have to be around for the sluggardry to be evident. Right? If you are a lazy person, it is not only, you don't have to be around to prove it. People will know. Okay? Okay, all right. All right, so let's see. Next thing. What did the king conclude? Notice I reflected upon it. What did the king conclude? And then his conclusion is the quotation from chapter 6, verses 10 to 11. What is his conclusion? Pardon?
Don't be lazy or.
Well, don't be lazy, but what does he conclude about the sluggard?
That he's been sleeping.
Okay, where is this sluggard headed?
Poverty.
Poverty, okay, poverty. Now, ultimately, probably his field will be taken away from him because he can't pay his bills. Because he's a sluggard, okay? Okay, now, this is where I was going with the question I confused you all with. Who is the robber and armed man in this passage? Okay, now notice it says not a vagabond here, it says a robber. It's a different word. And then the armed man is the same. But okay, so who's the robber and the armed man?
His laziness.
His laziness or his wasted time.
Laziness is better.
You like laziness better? That's the Gordon authorized version is better. Okay, he's a Gordon authorized version only. Right, but either way, you think that's the robber. You're stealing from yourself if you are not a diligent person. Okay, that's the wisdom of Proverbs. All right. Any other comments on this passage?
I agree with this version.
You agree with my wife? Well, that would be typical. All right, go ahead. Go ahead.
You could sort of apply this to other facets in life, not just, but like say, like people, family, in fact, that drank so much or were so alcoholics that they
Yeah.
brought it on themselves. That
They bring the consequences on themselves. That's right.
Right, so they didn't have the foresight. They didn't think about the consequences.
That's right.
They just continued in this sort
All right,
of
so
way.
that's a good point because one of the things that Proverbs causes us to do is to reflect on other areas of life besides the exact situation that it's describing. All right, Gordon?
And as he brings that up, I don't want to push him or preach on it, but like if you're not studying your Bible,
Yeah.
your spiritual life can suffer.
Exactly. So your spiritual life can suffer. Exactly. So that's a good application. Fred?
Does this apply to retired people?
Oh, does this apply to retired people?
Not to me and you, it doesn't.
Okay, well, okay, the thing is, some retired people were sluggards, and they're reaping the fruit of what they have done. But no, no, obviously not. We're not talking about that. Yes.
Well, you can be busy in your retirement, like Fred witnesses to people at Tim Hortons.
That's right.
Like he's active in that.
Yeah, well, that's true. And an active man, even if he is, though he's retired, is still active. You know, I hear people say all the time, "Oh, I'm busier than I ever was." I think, man, that's not what I'm looking forward to. And in fact, I'm not even thinking there's any such a thing as retirement. Can't even wrap my head around that. But anyway, yes, Cullen.
I just think about this passage and like the sluggard just ignores the real danger to himself, and he also has the wrong priorities where he says, "Oh, I need sleep." Well, you do need sleep, but maybe your need to be productive is greater, and
Right.
so not prioritizing the important things
Right.
led to this like downfall.
That's right. Amen. That's good. Okay, so let's move on. I'm just watching my clock. Now let's see what this one says. Oh, we're still good. That one's a little bit fast now again, as always. Okay, so, all right. So the mockery of the sluggard. This one, you'll catch what I mean by that in just a second. So the sluggard says, "There's a lion in the road, a lion in the open square. As the door turns on its hinges, so does the sluggard on his bed. The sluggard buries his hand in the dish. He is weary of bringing it to his mouth again. A sluggard is wiser in his own eyes than 7 men who can give a discreet answer." Now this is sort of a collection of one-liners. It's not like there's seemingly a direct, unified discussion, but there is a progression of thought. So we're going to look for that progression of thought. So number 1 question. The sluggard makes an assertion in verse 13. Is he telling the truth, and how would we know? Okay, what's the assertion?
There's a line.
Lying in the streets. Okay, so is he telling the truth?
Doesn't matter.
Oh.
Like if there's a lion in the street, you gotta get rid of the lion first. Like,
Okay, well, okay, that's true. That's true. But are there usually lions in the street?
depends where you live.
You're being very contrary. You're messing up my lesson. Okay, no, there's not usually lions in the streets most times, most days. Okay, so the
So probably.
so if there were a literal, here's my answer to this. If there were a literal lion in the street, no one would be abroad. So they might want to get rid of the lion. You'd call in men with guns or nets or something to get rid of the lion, right? But the sluggard here, it's the sluggardriness. It's another word that is speaking. Oh, I can't do the work. There's a lion out in the streets. It's too dangerous, right? Right.
When I read this, I might wrongly do it, but like the lion, could be it's windy. Or it's
Pardon me?
raining. Could be it's windy.
Yeah, it's
outside,
too
or
windy.
It's raining outside.
It's true. It's raining.
It's cold.
I hear that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of lions in this.
There's a lot of lions out in the street. That's right. Okay. Yes, Rob.
If there's a real lion on the street, I'm calling Gordon.
Yeah, yeah, he's going to do something about it. All right. Okay. So Cal,
I'm just gonna say it's unsubstantiated excuses.
unsubstantiated excuses. That's exactly it. Yes. All right. Yeah. Oh, Ivan.
So there may or may not be a mug in this facility that says, "Work never killed anybody, but why take a chance?"
That's right. Oh, I've got that in my office. Work never killed anybody, but why take a chance? Yeah, that's right. Yes, I forgot about that. You know, caught, busted. Okay. All right. Yes, James.
That sounds like a great idea for a reality show. Lions versus the lazy.
Yeah, that's right. Lions versus lazy. Okay. All right. Next one. What kind of activity does the sluggard engage in verse 14 then? Sleeping in. Sleeping in. All right. And he's turning on his own bed. He can't be bothered to go to work. So it's like, and they have the idea of the turning on the hinge. So now a door there is some production in turning a hinge, right? The door opens and closes, but it's not going anywhere. It's not, like, okay, there's a little, getting a better position in your sleep. Well, there is some benefit to that. Okay, but it's not the whole part of life. All right, next one. Oh, yes, Debbie.
I thought the second part of your question, number one,
Oh,
how would we know,
yes.
was aimed at, well, by opening the door. But then we see in the next verse, he isn't even opening the door.
He's not even opening the door. All right, so when it comes to feeding himself, how lazy is the sluggard? Now, this is a very sarcastic verse, right? How lazy is the sluggard in verse 15?
Extremely lazy.
Yeah, he can't even do what? Like he can stick his hand in the dish, but oh man, I'm so tired. He can't even lift it up. Now this is sort of, obviously that's a caricature, right? It's a joke. But he's making a point about the laziness of the sluggard. All right, so he can't even be bothered to lift his hand out of the bowl. All right, so the next question, what progression can we observe in these verses? Where is the real problem? So what's the progression? Can you see the progression? The first three verses here.
From the lion to the hinge to can't even eat, like to can't even. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, that's
it's
not the
getting worse.
progression I want you to
Oh,
see.
it's getting worse and worse though. Like
No, it's getting worse and worse, yes. But think about, see if anybody else has an idea. Colin?
I was thinking of the last verse, and he becomes like this cynical, like, I'm better than all of you, even though he's doing nothing.
Okay, so that's part of the last verse, but I want you to see a progression in those first three, though. Okay? Think about locations then. I'll give you a hint. Lola?
First he makes excuses,
Yeah?
then he does nothing apart from just lays around,
Yeah.
and then it gets worse and even hurts himself.
Right, okay, so that's true. That's a good progression. That's not the one I'm thinking of, but that's true. That's true. All right, so I want you to think about the location.
In his house, in his bed, and at his table.
Well, I guess he's in his house, but he's looking outside, right?
Right.
So that's a public place. He's not doing anything in the public place. Then he's in his house. He's not doing anything in the house. And then he's even at his table, and so it gets really personal there. So the real problem then is the man. It's not all of the excuses he makes, it's the man himself. Okay, so let's move to the next question. What is the sluggard compared with in verse 16? Okay.
Lots of other men.
7 wise men. Okay, the seven symbolizes perfection. Okay, so then the last question, where does the sluggard find wisdom? And Cullen already started to answer this.
In himself.
In himself. And he's wiser than everybody else. All right, so the sluggard is fully convinced that his way is right, and he's just badly misunderstood. He is, it reminds me, we used to have this kid in high school, and his nickname was Coma. Now, I don't know why he thought this about himself, but he used to write on his papers this little phrase, child of much abuse. Now, I don't know anything about his life. Maybe he did have abuse. I don't know. But because he would write that down all the time, that became his nickname, Coma, C-O-M-A, child of much abuse. But now, maybe I don't want to make fun of him, because there could be a bad situation in his home. But that's the way a lot of people think about themselves. I've got it so bad. I've got it so hard. It's always somebody else's fault. It's my parents' fault. It's my husband's fault. It's my wife's fault. It's my kid's fault. It's my boss's fault. It's my whatever. Okay? There's always a finger pointing out. And the sluggard is, I know better than all those 7 guys. All right, so Rob?
That reminds me of, I've quoted before, that comedian Albert Brooks, who says, if I had been graded more fairly in high school, I might have been a doctor or some sort of scientist.
That's a line you stole?
I stole that.
Rob uses that all the time. Okay, so all right. Okay, so you didn't footnote it properly either. So.
Maybe I did once and forgot.
Okay, all right, Colin. Okay.
In that last verse, there's like his laziness extends to his intellectual life. Like he isn't even willing to listen to why, even if there's 7 wise people that are all saying the same thing.
Right.
He's like, oh well, I've already figured this out.
Yeah, I know that's very good.
He doesn't like look into anything.
Yeah, so he's lazy even intellectually. That's a very good point. All right.
Sort of like my jokes.
Sort of like your jokes. Yeah, that's right. Well, that's the thing is, you always steal jokes from other people because why think them up yourself? That's way better. Okay, all right, so let's move on. So that's the mockery of the sluggard. Let's move on to the last passage. Wisdom to turn from sluggardry. All right, so here's the passage. 2 things I asked of you, do not refuse me before I die. Keep deception and lies far from me. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with the food that is my portion, that I not be full and deny you and say, who is the Lord? Or that I not be in want and steal and profane the name of my God. All right, so what does verse 7 communicate about the intensity of this request?
Seems sincere.
Sincere, but there's something. What is the circumstance he brings up?
Death.
Death. Okay, so he wants this answered before he dies. So how is this couched then? All right, I'll give you my answer. So because this might be a little hard to grasp, it is like a last request before he dies. If there's one thing I want from God, give me this. All right, so do not refuse me. All right, so then, what is the request in the first line of verse 8? That he think truly? What did you say, Lola?
To keep deception and lies from him.
Okay, to keep deception and lies from him. All right, Rob?
Maybe so that he won't be misled, like appealing to not be misled.
Okay, appealing not to be misled. And so then I added to this, essentially a request for wisdom. Keep deception and lies far from me. Okay, and we are all, a lot, and the biggest deception is our own deception. Okay, because none of us are perfectly wise. None of us know all the facts. And oh God, keep me from believing lies. You know, you get all kinds of information these days, all kinds of sources. Keep me from believing lies. Okay, and we can apply that in many, many different ways. So he's asking that, that's his request. And then, what is the request of the second line in verse 8?
I always ask for half of it.
You always ask for half of it. All right, what is this? Yes, Marlene?
He's asking for just enough.
Just enough, all right. So I put balanced wealth, but that's pretty good. Just enough, okay? And then the third line. What's the third line?
Same idea, yeah.
All right. Sufficiency is the word I put, but exactly the same idea. So he's not asking for give me tons of money so I can solve all my problems. He is not, and he's certainly not asking for poverty. All right. So just for sufficiency. All right. So you get that picture. Now, the next question is, verse 9 is kind of a chiasm, and I'll give you my paraphrase of it like this. So you look at verse 9, that I not be full and deny you, say who is the Lord, or that I not be in want and steal and profane the name of my God. Okay, that I not deny the Lord, first line, that I not be in want, that I not profane God's name. So a little chiasm in that verse. Okay, so the big thing is, the emphasis then is on the two things on the outside. But how does the central purpose relate to the earlier prayers? Notice the central purpose of the little chiasm, that I not be in want. And of course it says, and steal, or that I not be in want and steal. So how does that relate to the earlier prayers? Keep deception and lies far from me, give me neither poverty nor riches, feed me with the food that is my portion. How does that relate to that I not be in want and steal?
I guess, like his, when we were looking at the other passages, there was self-deception going on that caused the poverty. And the sluggard would say, oh, it's because of excuse, when it's really, the sluggard's fault. So, maybe that's the deception.
Okay. All right. So, yeah. So he's asking that God would not, that would not, well, here, I'll give you my answer and then I'll see how that fits in with what Colin is saying. The sage does not want lack or abundance to tempt him to unfaithfulness in any way. Okay, so don't give me poverty. All right, now that does mean I have, okay, so if I don't want poverty, then I have to be a diligent person. I have to be, I have to take, God has given me responsibility. It's not that it's all up to me, but God has given me a responsibility. Okay, so be active. And if you're in a normal situation, there's no war and there's no pestilence and whatever going on, most likely if you're diligent, you will make your way. Okay, you will have enough. But the same thing, at the same token, he's saying, don't give me riches. I don't want riches. Because either one of those will become a temptation to me to do what? Okay, what is the main focus of the life that leads to a right perspective on possessions, work, and wealth? All right, so Cullen.
Well, the relationship with God.
The relationship with God, the life devoted to serving God. Okay, so I've rushed through this a little bit, but the whole point is, what is the antidote? Wisdom to turn from sluggardry. It is that self-awareness, that petition to God, that desire for wisdom, that not making castles in the air about how if things just turn out or buying a lottery ticket or whatever is going to make me solve all my problems. But really being a diligent, faithful, hardworking, wise, honest person will help me, and devoted to God, will help me to have success in my life. All right, Cullen.
I think this last portion is such a good summary because at a surface level, when we look at these verses and we see the end being poverty or wealth, and you think that not going into poverty or coming into wealth is the goal, but that's not really the goal. The goal is your relationship with God.
Right. Okay.
So the deeper purpose should be that your relationship with God doesn't suffer
That's right.
because of your circumstances.
Right. Or your inner attitudes. Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. So the deeper purpose is that the relationship with God does not suffer because of your circumstances or your attitudes. All right. Did I see another hand? Anybody else wave their hand earlier and I ignored you? Oh, Fred.
I gather from what I heard that there's a blessing upon those who seek an apprenticeship.
Yeah.
Number one, it declares that I don't know,
Right.
and I look to someone that does know,
Yes.
and you sign up for that. It's a good thing.
It is.
And when it comes to believers, it's all the more important.
Yes, that's right. Okay, so he's talking about the importance of apprenticeship, which is a good illustration. First of all, in the workforce, and by the way, I have met a few guys in apprenticeship programs here in our NBC, and it is, for what they're trying to do, it's an excellent training ground. I really think it's great. But, okay, for believers, okay, so there is a spiritual apprenticeship. So we come to the Word of God. We come to church. We fellowship with believers. Iron sharpens iron, Proverbs says in Proverbs 17, I'm not sure, or 18. And the idea is that Christians can help one another grow in wisdom. Right, so that's the idea. All right, so a couple of quotes, or one quote here from Robert Deffinbaugh's study, The Way of the Wise. If there is one thing the sluggard lacks, it is self-control. If there is any food in the house, he eats it, with no thought for the consequences. If he has the choice of work or play, he will always choose play. Whatever is easy and enjoyable will always be his choice. The wise man knows that short-term sacrifices are required for future benefits. The wise child decides to do without candy bars and ice cream cones in order to save for a bike or whatever. There's a story about that one too. The disciplined athlete knows that he must not eat too much of certain foods and must not stay up too late if he wishes to win the contest. The sluggard is not willing to make any sacrifices or to do without any pleasure that is within his reach. So I thought that was a good description. It's a little convicting because when he's talking about the child who saves for the bike, well, that was my brother. It wasn't me. Me, it was the candy bars. So I had some lessons to learn, and maybe I still do. All right. Okay, any last comments on this topic? Okay, let's pray. Father, thank you for the time that we've had today thinking about this topic. Lord, we pray that we've had a lot of fun talking about it. But Lord, let's apply it to our hearts and help us to be faithful, diligent servants of Christ in all that we do. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.